Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by UCAN. On today's episode, we have Chase Ingraham and Dex Hopkins here to discuss whether training camps paying athletes professionalizes the sport. At the end of each season, we see a lot of shifting with athletes changing training camps. And this is very common in most major sports like football, basketball, hockey. But Chase, when it comes to CrossFit, most athletes, they're not under contracts or even being paid by their coach. They are, in fact, the ones paying the coach. Do you think that that changes the conversation?
You're going into training camps and being possibly paid for them? Heck yeah. I mean, CrossFit early days, maybe up until a couple of years ago, it's been an individual endeavor. You're paying for everyone. You're paying your way to have a coach. You're paying your way to get programming. You're paying to have to go to the event that you qualified online, that you paid to play at. Like, there's a lot of individualized stuff. And the fact that I think outside of any competition of any prize purse, no matter what size it is, that does not legitimize the athletes from a professional athlete standpoint more than a training camp coming in and paying them to be a part of that camp or a part of that team. I think this actually is the best avenue to go down by professionalizing more for athletes than any type of payout at any event you could go to.
Dex, you're obviously an athlete. You have many friends that are athletes. Do you know of some training camps that are, in fact, doing these contractual agreements similar to some of the major sports that we're talking about? And actually, the coaches are the ones that pay the athlete to be there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at those things. Like, I mean, you guys just got like raked over the coals, or I guess one person did, for kind of the interview you guys did about, you know, a reference to like an employee-employer relationship. And like Chase is saying, LeBron don't sign his own checks. You know, that's a real thing. And so I think absolutely that legitimizes it, like Chase said. But there aren't that many that are able to do that, right? Like a lot of people, I've said before, like a lot of people eat the fruit off this tree, and not a lot of people were the seed to the tree. And that guy that made that reference, you know, Benny B was one of the seeds. You know, you talk about subscriptions, you talk about big companies, and there are an unruly amount of affiliates now and athletes that do a subscription-based thing that pay that. And, you know, not every company has that, so they don't have the means to pay athletes. So you're working on this relationship-based thing, which is, you know, me and Chase have been in it forever, and that was the deal, right? I mean, if you look back in the days of like Progenics and people that were like hoping you could pay your bills with protein scoops and t-shirts, like, which was cool at the time, right? Like, I mean, if you, you know, again, affiliate stuff being separate from the sport of it, you don't realize that like that $20 for the open for most people is where the buck stops. You don't realize it's 200 plus to go to regionals on top of travel, on top of hotel and stay and food and blah, blah, blah. And then if you are insanely fit and you get to the games, it is not a free show there. Nope. That's why it's been such a big deal for Rogue to give travel stipends, to do all these things and facilitate the professionalism of it, right? Like, I mean, we talk about, you know, the judges and all the kind of the facets of that thing. But I think when I'm enabling a guy who puts in the amount of time you have to put in now, because it is not fireman and house mom games anymore, like 2012, 13, whatever, 11. And, you know, you have to put in professional athlete hours, professional athlete recovery. It's not just what you do in the gym anymore. So if you see these people that are able to bring people in and give their, you know, their body of work. I mean, let's just use Ben, for example, bringing Chandler in. Chandler's one of the fittest people that walks the earth. Chandler's holes have always been out of the gym, recovering, and you know, some movement things and stuff like that. And that's Ben's thing, the mental aspect, the out of the gym, the what they have a TV12 guy in house. If you've ever been to CrossFit New England and seen the monster that it is, that's their building. That building has a lot of rooms that are all used, and every camp's not that machine, so it is not the same, right? I mean, with the NIL stuff, hell, Texas is getting raked right now, or A&M, for the oil money and the stuff they're able to do with NIL. And hey, sucks to be you if you ain't got oil money. I mean, that's just how it is. But I mean, you look at somebody, what's another camp? So I love Kotler. I think they have the body of work athlete wise, it trends in that direction. They're not a subscription based thing. I think they want to go in that direction maybe, but you know, I would love to see, and we said this many months back, I love that camps are a thing now. And that's how it, you know, I mean, you remember when LeBron left Cleveland and went to Miami, how pissed people were? I would love for that to be a CrossFit thing because there's money involved.
Going there. It's already going there. I mean, look what Daniel Brandon did.
Dude, and I
but so it's going there. There are so many of these training camps, and we see the shifts in athletes. So, first question is, how many training camps are paying the athletes to come to their camp? And the second question, assuming what I think the answer is, why aren't more doing it?
Well, I think what Dex is talking about is they might not be established enough to be able to do that yet. I mean, even if you have a camp or an online programming subscription-based deal, it's like, it's still a matter of time of getting people signed up, money in the door to bankroll something like this. And maybe what we'll see over the next couple of years as this grows and they get more people, they get more finances to do this, is that, I mean, I would love for this to be the uncapped salary era of the 90s NFL.
Yeah.
Right? Or the Major League Baseball. That's the best part, is like, yeah, okay, say comp train, been around for years, like you were talking about, is like, we can bankroll whatever we want, whenever we want. So we're just going to get athletes in because we can afford it. Great. HWPO, you know, and I think some of these, you know, like Brute Strength, Invictus, all these other camps out there, underdogs, as you mentioned, is that, yeah, maybe we'll see a time where not the best camp, best coaches and best programmers have the best athletes, but the one that can pay the most is going to have the best athletes.
It's the same reason Dubai is a big deal. Because I remember the first year they had Dubai, I signed up for the qualifier with zero intention of going to this because I don't want no part of that travel. Chase has been out there and worked it. No part of it.
Quiet age.
I'll experience it on YouTube. Cool. But like if you signed up that year, you got $500. If you signed up and submitted 5 videos, it didn't have to be good. They just had to count. And it's $20 signed up. That's quite the net for not being that fit.
Yeah.
And so that's why that's continued to grow the way it is. And you know, we talked about, you know, when we were talking about Tia being done, what that body of work looks like when Matt was done, HWPO, like there's no telling how much money they gross every month from subscriptions to get, so people can stick their hand in that pot and be a part of it community wise. And you get like the program and premise of a guy who won it more times than anybody ever, who now has the body of work of a Mal who makes the jump, which is really hard to make a top 10 jump. Like, you know, the closer you get to the top, the harder it is to move that needle. And so everybody's going to want a part of that. And so that's, you know, there's going to be those. I mean, it's just a different shoe or whatever side of the coin that there's revenue streams. And so I'd love to see that. But like Proven's the same thing. Like I think T will keep competing, but they have built the same thing and it's that same body of work. And that's why I hate going back to comp train. But like, dude, Ben was never, you know, went with the team, but like that's a coaching thing. Brute, none of us are, you know, I went on a team, but like Matt Torres, me, Nick Fowler. I mean, you know, it's a coaching camp. Same thing for underdogs and stuff like that. But it's gonna be weird to see what people benefit from to grow that and be able to pay them. And I know nothing about like what Matt and them do or what Tia and them do with athletes. I mean, I know there's a lot of value placed on that environment and being around, you know, the tide raises all boats and all that. But so, and it's not sad to live in Nashville. I don't know how Vermont is, but you know, I'm sure being around that guy and getting coached is nice, but good maple syrup. But yeah.
Well, I think the other thing too is it's even outside of like what the paycheck is, if there is one. But okay, what else can we do for these athletes? Like we have a huge social media following. We're going to grow your social media by 50 to 100,000 people. We have sponsors that work with us. Now you're going to be a Nike sponsored athlete or a Noble sponsored athlete or a Tier sponsored athlete. Like, there's so much that can come with these camps, and the power that they can bring with them is like their YouTube channels. Like they can grow your brand internally as well. And I think that's a huge added bonus to what some of these training camps can do for other people.
This episode is brought to you by UCAN. Who can? You can. At least I can with UCAN with one of their easy squeeze pouches that give me the energy I need to get through my workout without causing a crash. When I work out early in the morning but don't want to on an empty stomach because we know mid-wad I'm going to be hangry, I grab one of their super easy on the stomach bars. Chocolate almond butter? Yes, please. I may not be a games athlete, yet, but UCAN helps me stay focused and energized during my workouts. It delivers steady release carbs for long-lasting energy without spiking blood sugar levels, the key to sustaining peak performance and focus and recording videos like these. Trusted by top CrossFit pros like Scott Panchik and Emily Rolfe, get your hands on these goodies and even save 20% on your first order with our code CHALKUP. Link in the description. Now back to the episode.
Well, you see like the levels to it, right? So, you know, Bijan Haravi, Cooper Marsh, Benji, I mean, just manager. These people, they're athletes that have managers now that manage those brand deals, those whatever, this and that. And the more brands that move into space, I mean, you mentioned tier, dude, that's not CrossFit money, right? Same thing with like First Form. That's a every kind of facet of athletics brand, things that are bringing in like real money that to like, and it doesn't take much for a CrossFit to be like, you gonna pay me? You said, yeah, just gonna send me the. I don't have to tag you on Instagram. That's not it.
Water bottle. I'm in, right? That's how we used to do it.
But that's dude, and that's the leverage now, right? Like, so the social media following is definitely like an athlete advocate thing. Like, I mean, I hate to say it's easier for girls than it is guys, but it is. I mean, you look at like a Brooke Wells. There's no telling how much like endorsement stuff they get.
Look,
like,
my ass on Instagram is getting like
0
likes.
23. I'll give you 23. Yeah, the bottom. Yeah, the booty shorts on you don't do it.
I have like 30 family members, so let that
be.
Oh,
Dylan's gonna like that pic. Dylan's gonna like
it.
But they, but there's so many levels to it, right? And so I think aligning yourself, and I think that frees them up to be able to, you know, that keeps everybody from being like to running toward the bag, like somebody that can facilitate that, like a massive machine like CompTrain or something like that. So that frees a lot of people up, you know, and those guys do a great job. Like I mean, if you don't know all Bijan's athlete, I mean, O'Keefe's athletes and what those things grow into. I mean, those people make legitimate adult money, and it used to really rub me the wrong way. And it just even as a coach, when I mean, you know, and Chase, somebody probably asked you this in your like CrossFit lifetimes, like, hey, what do you really do for a living? What, dog?
Yeah,
I coach.
What's your real job? I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
and I'll punch you in the head. That's my job.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, and so that it's my favorite thing, and now it's the longest like athletic relationship I've had after football. I've stayed in it, and so I would love to see it to where it facilitate people to make all the money they want to make, pay all the bills they want to pay, and devote all the time they can devote, and not have to have something like now I have to be a fireman and a nurse and manage all that stuff on top of, you know, slaving away in the gym and it just making something it's not. So you get like this crazier peak expression because all those things are taken care of. And that's going to be a really cool place to see the sport go.
Okay, so it seems like you both answered the question and are both in agreement that training camps paying the athletes would professionalize the sport. Is that true?
Absolutely.
100%.
Okay, so if we're in agreement of that, if you two are in agreement of that, I'm sure more people are. But then why isn't this talked about? Is there a perception
it's frowned upon?
Well, and that's what I'm asking is, do certain training camps think that maybe it makes them less legit if they're paying the athletes to come, or what is the concept you guys think surrounding this conversation? Is it taboo?
It's exactly what Chase says, a bankroll issue, right?
It's that or that. Well, it's like, why don't they advertise?
Well, and that's what I mean. Why are we kind of tiptoeing around like who's paying their athletes and who's not, and why aren't they advertising it?
It's odd because it's not. No other sport does that. I know exactly what LeBron James makes every year.
Mm-hmm.
I know the entire.
You see it debated on the bottom or first take every morning, right?
Right. We know the entire bankroll that the Yankees throw out there every year. We know what the luxury tax is for the Dallas Mavericks we know those things in every sport. We don't know that in CrossFit.
Because it's so new. It's so new, right? And it's so and I'll tell you that it's the disparity. I'm telling you, it's not that everybody can. Are you able, right? Like every NFL team's got money. There's a cap. Every MLB, all those leagues, and that's like the parallel I always draw. It's like, there's a lot of rules. There's players associations. We're about to see that go crazy in the NFL with the Tua stuff, right? Because they're able to defend themselves, and it's a separate entity and all that. And you don't have that in CrossFit, or you do. It's just, is there leeway, or is it just hey guys, tell us what you think, toss it over our shoulder? But it's just not everybody can't. Like everybody can't bankroll everybody, and that's why I say it broke my heart to see people like trash and Ben for that, because I don't think anybody handles that more gracefully than he does, because solid human. But you don't understand the monster and like if you hadn't been in the space a long time, you don't understand the monster that place is or that brand and what it was. Like I used to do it as Competitors Wad when it was a blog spot, and it was like me, Noah, a bunch of random people would come through on there, and I posted every day because I was trash. But like, it's just, it's cool to see the evolution, right? Like, you know, I remember when Chase opened his gym. I remember a ton of stuff, and like seeing it go in that direction is awesome. But then you see people that come in late, and then you can't play the same game. It's the same joke that everybody used to make. Like, nobody goes to start playing rec league basketball and then decide they're going to go to the NBA. Or people going to a CrossFit gym. The second month they're in a CrossFit gym after college football, they're like, oh, going to CrossFit games, dog. And I was one of them. In South Central, I got like 150th the first year, though. I was like, I had to watch Chase do 30 burpee muscle ups in socks with a cape.
That's right. Won my damn heat too.
He did, the pace man. But it's everybody can't do it, and that's the disparity, and it's the formula is different. Like I'm saying, like Ben and them coaches to the heart. Ben has a great group of people on every level. Matt, athlete, coach. I don't think anybody has done as well as Matt has done, being okay not knowing what he doesn't know and bringing in the consummate professional. And I don't even want to know what that costs. If they come in for free, whatever, that's their business. But I think there are 3 camps: Comp Train, HWPO, and Proven. They're going to be able to do that. And will they be the only 3 forever? No, I don't think so. I think, I think the more that the template or the flow is out there for people to build and work toward that, the more that'll come and do. And I'd love to see it be exactly like an NFL, kind of camp, like you can make the map and draw the logos and see where people are and all this. And it'd be awesome, for the sport. So, but it's when people can. And there's not a lot that can right now to say, hey, man, come here. We're going to pay you X amount of dollars a year. That is an actual adult W-2 salary. You pay your bills, you come fitness here, and the things I've heard, there are very little like attachments outside of, hey, we're going to coach you, pay you, you do well. That continues to happen. It's very, a lot like the brand partnerships. It's most of it is incentivized. Some of them cut big checks, like the bigger brands, Tier, Nike, blah, blah, blah. But, that's a lot of it's not based on like, hey, we need 64 social media posts this year or 14. It's, hey, you go and do, and there's wiggle room. I don't think anything is that rigid yet, but also now these guys have middlemen to do that. And if you've ever seen Bijan deal with anybody, Bijan's good at his job. Like he ain't limited to space. He works for people in the NBA and all that. And then there's a lot of people like that. And so it's, we're getting to where people are freed up just to be the fittest they can be. And that's going to be more scary as it goes. Cause I don't think like Matt, terrifying, Tia, terrifying, Mal, Haley, those people, I don't think it's going to go down. I think that thing's just going to keep rising to whatever peak it's going to go to because of that.
Could there be a downside to moving the sport in this direction where maybe eventually more camps can pay their athletes?
I don't see one.
Not really. I mean,
other than like internal drama between camps stealing athletes,
which is a thing anyway.
Which would be great.
Right. It's happening already.
Yeah. So, okay. Great. Yeah.
Well, I think like nobody.
That's sport.
Again,
sports. Yeah, welcome to sports, people.
Right. This happens in every single professional sport.
Do you remember when Jalen Hurts left Alabama to go to Oklahoma? Like that, you don't have to sit out a year to transfer anymore. So it's not just limited to us, right? Like that's a professional sports cool.
Root for or against that person.
Absolutely. And like I love what it does for, I mean, we talk about just like the money paid to athletes and all that stuff. I feel like that should be like a foregone thing. You should get paid to do this as a professional. There should be professional judges. There should be XYZ. But you know what that does for fans and like allegiance to brands and what that does for everyone? That is the tide that rises boats across the board. Everybody makes more money. The fans are able to be more engaged and crazy.
Idea for you, Lauren. I'll tell you after this.
Yeah. And people can be insane about it. You know how many people that have weird Green Bay Packer tattoos?
Right.
I lived in Green Bay for a very long time.
Well, I loved Brett Favre until he was stealing from welfare people. So
me too. Gosh.
Brett. The dick pics I could deal with. The welfare, the dick pics, fine. Welfare stealing. Come on, Brett. Damn it.
I'll let the DP slide, but stealing
can't do you're not Robin Hood, dog. This is the opposite.
Oh, geez. So. Chase, what is your bottom line?
Bottom line, the training camps paying athletes is the biggest step we've seen into professionalizing the sport across the board. All
Dex?
for it and all for more of it.
Yes. It's a yes. Yeah, I think without getting into the weird stuff that is the levels to the game, right? That builds on community into the professional stuff. This is definitely the biggest step in the direction of professionalism. And I think that trickles down to a lot of stuff and a lot of progression and a lot of just all encompassing things that raise the sport, fans, athletes, brands, like, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, the answer is yes.
All right, Dex and Chase, thanks for having this conversation. I appreciate it.
It's always easy when we agree with each other.
It is true. It is true.
The disagree ones.
Yeah, they're all fun. Have we had one where we disagreed yet? I don't think we've disagreed.
Not yet.
Damn it.
I will actively find one.
There you go.
I was
We'll
waiting
see
on you
you
to
guys
drop
next
like a
time.
bomb. Yeah. Later, guys.